Colossus of Rhodes. After Rhodes survived a massive siege, the islanders turned enemy war machines into a celebration, a bronze statue of the sun god Helios that towered over the harbor district. Metalworkers built an internal frame, then riveted overlapping bronze plates into a gleaming skin as scaffolding climbed with the statue. Stones packed into the lower limbs gave it weight and stability. It didn't straddle the harbor mouth, that's a later myth, but it did dominate the skyline, a symbol of a defiant city made prosperous by trade. Nature had the last word. About 56 years after it was completed, an earthquake snapped the giant at the knees. An oracle advised against rebuilding, so the fallen colossus lay where it fell for centuries, a tourist draw of enormous fingers and broken curls. Later sources say the bronze was eventually sold off and hauled away. Whether every detail is true or not, the sun god's rise and fall became part of Rhodes's legend. The Great Pyramid of Giza. Over 4,500 years ago, Pharaoh Khufu set out to build a monument that would outlast his name. On the Giza Plateau, Egyptian planners squared a massive stone base to near true north and organized a rotating workforce of builders, haulers, and craftsmen. Limestone blocks came from nearby quarries. Harder granite for the inner chambers traveled up the Nile. Sledges slid over wetted sand, ramps crept upward as the pyramid rose, and surveyors kept the angles tight. Inside, corridors lead to a king's chamber engineered to bear the weight of a stone mountain. Outside, smooth white casing once made the pyramid shine like a beacon in the desert sun. What happened to it? It didn't vanish. The Great Pyramid is the lone survivor. Time and an earthquake loosened the gleaming outer skin, which was later quarried from medieval Cairo. But the core still stands. Khufu's gamble worked, a tomb that became the oldest and toughest wonder of them all. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Ancient writers swore there was a green mountain in the Mesopotamian heat, terraces shaded by palms, vines, and waterfalls that seemed to pour from the sky. Tradition says King Nebuchadnezzar II built the gardens to comfort his homesick queen, Amytis. If so, engineers had to solve one huge problem: water. The vision likely required vaulted brick terraces, waterproof bitumen, deep soil beds, and a continuous lifting system that hauled river water to the top so it could cascade down. So what happened? That's the mystery. No solid archaeological proof has surfaced in Babylon. Some scholars think the Hanging Wonder stood further north at Nineveh, under the Assyrian king Sennacherib, famous for aqueducts and lush palace grounds. Earthquakes, invasions, shifting rivers, and neglect would have erased the evidence either way. By the time classical travelers went looking, there was little to find. The most romantic wonder may have been real, but in the wrong city, or a legend that kept growing like a vine across centuries. Statue of Zeus at Olympia. In the dim light of Zeus's temple at Olympia, visitors once stared up at a god made of luxury. Around the 5th century BCE, the master sculptor Phidias assembled a seated Zeus so tall his head nearly touched the beams. He used a wooden framework sheathed in ivory for flesh and hammered gold for robes, then added delicate color and inlays to bring the face to life. In one hand, the king of the gods held victory, in the other, a scepter. Oil lamps warmed the air, and the polished surfaces glowed. People said the statue didn't just look divine, it felt present. How did it end? Fire. Accounts differ on where the flames took it. Some say the statue was moved to Constantinople and burned there, others that a blaze at Olympia destroyed it earlier. But almost all roads lead to ashes. Today, coins, copies, and written descriptions are our windows into a vanished masterpiece that turned a temple into theater. Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. Ephesus built big for its goddess. With help from the wealth of King Croesus, the city raised a dazzling marble sanctuary on a marshy site to cushion earthquakes. Rows of tall columns ringed the platform. Sculpted bases and gleaming floors gave the temple the feel of a royal hall. It wasn't only a shrine, it was a civic hub and treasury, home to a local image of Artemis revered as protector and provider. Twice, fate intervened. In 356 BCE, an arsonist named Herostratus burned the temple for notoriety. The city rebuilt grander than before. Centuries later, a mix of raids, tremors, and stone robbing finished what fire started. By late antiquity, the great house of Artemis was a quarry. Blocks and columns found second lives in nearby buildings. What stands now is a solitary, re-erected column beside reeds and water, a quiet marker for a place that once drew pilgrims from across the Aegean. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. When the Carian ruler Mausolus died, his queen, Artemisia II, commissioned a tomb that blended the best of the ancient world. Stone steps lifted a high base wrapped in carved reliefs. A graceful colonnade rose above. A steep pyramidal roof climbed higher still, and at the summit, a marble chariot with the royal pair raced toward eternity. Greece's top sculptors contributed panels and statues, turning a gravesite into a gallery. The design was so influential that mausoleum became the name for any monumental tomb. Its fall wasn't dramatic, it was gradual. Earthquakes weakened the layered structure over the centuries until it lay in ruin. In the 1400s, the Knights Hospitaller mined the site to build Bodrum Castle, even burning broken marble for lime. Fragments of the sculptures survive in museums, but the building itself lives on as a blueprint, a fusion of styles that made remembrance into architecture. Lighthouse of Alexandria. On the island of Pharos, at the mouth of Alexandria's busy harbor, the Ptolemies built a beacon the world had never seen. The architect Sostratus stacked 3 elegant tiers, square, octagonal, and circular, into a tall white tower that sailors could spot from miles offshore. By day, a polished mirror flashed sunlight. By night, a furnace burned in the lantern, its glow guided outward by the same reflective system. Inside, ramps and rooms supported keepers, fuel, and maintenance. More than a navigational aid, the Pharos was a symbol, a promise that order, learning, and safe harbor lay ahead. Then the earth moved, again and again. Major earthquakes across the medieval centuries cracked and shortened the tower until it was a stump. In the 15th century, the Mamluk Sultan Qaitbay built a fortress on the old foundations, recycling the lighthouse stone. Divers today map tumbled blocks on the harbor floor, but the message endures. The world's first great lighthouse lit a path that lasted long after its flame went out.